I gave my sister a $800,000 beach house, then her husband's family took control and forced her out. I still remember the day I handed my sister the keys to the house, the ocean glistening behind her, sunlight bouncing off her skin like a blessing. She looked at me with disbelief, her brown eyes glimmering like she was afraid to blink in case it all vanished. "Zara," she whispered, her voice trembling. "This can't be real. You're joking, right?" I smiled even though my chest was tight. "No jokes, Tandy. The house is yours. Grandma Nandi left me everything, and I'm choosing to share the best part with you." Tandy pressed her hand to her mouth, shaking. "Zara, this is $800,000. 800,000. I can't accept this." "Yes, you can," I said, forcing my voice to stay calm. "After everything you've been through with Nathi and his people, you deserve a place that's truly yours. Somewhere nobody can make you feel small." Her lips quivered. "You don't understand. Nathi's mother. I understand more than you think." I reached into my bag and pulled out a folded document. "This is a contract," I said, sliding it across the marble table. "A clause that protects you. If anyone, and I mean anyone, tries to claim ownership or force you out, it automatically reverts to me, and I'll put it straight back in your name." Tandy blinked at it, hesitant. "Zara, this is too much. You're a lawyer, I'm a schoolteacher. It doesn't feel." "Just sign," I said softly. "It's not about fairness. It's about freedom." She stared at me for a long moment before picking up the pen. Her signature looped across the page, steady but hesitant, and that signature would one day save her life. We moved her into the beach house the following weekend. It was everything we dreamed of as girls. White walls, glass balconies, the smell of salt in the air. The property sat in Umhlanga, right on the South African coastline, where the Indian Ocean danced blue under endless skies. When she turned to me that evening, barefoot on the balcony, I saw joy again. Real joy, after years of watching her dim herself for that man and his mother. For the first time in a long time, my little sister looked alive. If only I'd known that joy would last barely a month before the darkness came knocking. The call came just after midnight. I was drafting a contract for a client when my phone buzzed. Tandy's name flashed across the screen. "Zara." Her voice was tight, trembling. "They're here." "Who?" "All of them. Mama Nathi, his brother Tabo, even his cousins. They came with luggage. Nathi says it's just for a weekend, but they're unpacking, Zara. Like they live here." I sat up straight. "Are you serious?" "I'm serious," she whispered. "They're in my kitchen." His mother just threw away Grandma's cast iron pot because it was too old-fashioned. That pot's older than both of us. "Did Nathi say anything?" "He said I'm overreacting. That his family just needs a place to rest after the funeral they attended. But Zara, they're rearranging everything." Something in her voice, a mix of anger and quiet dread, made my stomach twist. "I'm coming over first thing in the morning." "No, don't," she said quickly. "It'll cause problems. Please just—" "Someone's knocking on my bedroom door," she whispered suddenly. "Zara, they're knocking on my own door in my own house." The line cut. I didn't sleep that night. I drove at dawn, the ocean mist still clinging to the road. When I reached the house, I found chaos. Children were running across the cream tiles with muddy feet. Tabo's wife lounged on the couch like it was hers. And in the kitchen, stirring a pot of pap like she owned the world, was Nathi's mother, Mama Zadwa, wearing her floral robe and an expression that said Queen of the Castle. She turned when she saw me. "Ah, the lawyer's sister." Her tone dripped disdain. "You didn't tell us you'd be visiting." "Where's Tandy?" I asked flatly. "Upstairs. She's been moody. You know how teachers are, always thinking they know better than everyone." I didn't answer. I found Tandy upstairs, curled on the bed, hugging a pillow. She looked small, too small for this world she'd built. "It was supposed to be for the weekend," she whispered when I sat beside her. "It's been 4 days." I held her until her tears soaked my shoulder. "This isn't a visit," I said quietly. "It's an invasion." Week by week they took more. First, Mama Zadwa replaced the furniture. "The minimalist look is so cold," she told Tandy, sipping tea. "You need something homier, something that says family." She brought in heavy dark sofas, lace curtains, and religious paintings that swallowed the light. The house no longer looked coastal. It looked like Mama Zadwa's living room in Soweto. Tandy sent me pictures with shaking hands. "Zara, I don't even recognize my home anymore." "Say something to Nathi," I urged. "Tell him this isn't okay." "I tried," she said. "He says I'm being ungrateful. That his family sacrificed their comfort to help us build a home. You're not even pregnant, I snapped. Help you build what? She looked down. His mother keeps asking about that. Every morning. Any news yet? She says, like my womb is her business. I wanted to scream. Instead I said softly, remember what you signed. The clause protects you. But hope is fragile when you live surrounded by people who crush it daily. By the second month, Mama Zadwa had taken over the master bedroom, for her arthritis. Tandy and Nathi were moved to a smaller guest room. When I visited one Sunday, Tobo's kids had drawn on the walls with crayons. Tandy called. What is this? She stood in the hallway, frozen. Mama says kids are blessings. She says we shouldn't stifle their creativity. This isn't creativity, it's destruction, I said. You have to take control. She gave a weak smile. Control doesn't work in this family. Her voice cracked on the word family. 2 weeks later, I was in court when I got the text that froze my blood. They changed the locks. I excused myself and called immediately. Tandy, what do you mean changed the locks? I went to buy groceries. When I came back, my key didn't work. Mama Zadwa opened the door and said they upgraded the security system. She made me wait outside in the rain to verify it was really me. I gripped my phone until my knuckles turned white. And Nathi, at work, he says I'm making a scene. That it's just for security. She gave new keys to everyone except you. Yes, even Tobo's wife has one. That was it. Final straw. I cancelled all my meetings and drove straight there with a locksmith. When we arrived, Mama Zadwa opened the door like she was expecting royalty, not confrontation. This is a private residence, she said, folding her arms. It's my sister's residence, I replied evenly. And I'm the deed holder. You're just her sister. Her husband has no legal right, I cut in. Now step aside. She glared but moved when I called out. Nathi, get down here. He appeared confused and irritated. What's this about, Zara? You changed the locks. That's a violation of the occupancy terms. He sighed, rubbing his temple. My mother felt unsafe. It's her right. Unsafe from who? My sister. His silence was answer enough. I'll make this simple, I said. You change those locks back today or I activate the clause. Don't test me, Nathi. He paled. They changed them back within 2 hours. But I saw it in Mama Zadwa's eyes. That cold, simmering hatred of a woman who just lost control of her favorite toy. I knew then. This wasn't over. It started slowly. Messages from relatives, old family friends, people I hadn't heard from in years. Why are you trying to destroy Nathi's marriage? You're jealous because your sister found a man. A woman who can't keep a home shouldn't be advising others. Then came the WhatsApp group, the Madison family chat, renamed the Zulu Legacy as if they were royalty. They added me, of course, to watch the drama unfold. Tobo called me a bitter woman with too many degrees and no husband. His wife added, some women envy other women's blessings. Shame. And then came Mama Zadwa's voice note, honeyed poison. Zara dear, you must learn boundaries. Tandy is a married woman now. She belongs to the Mackay's family. Stop interfering, you're stressing her husband. Stress can destroy marriages, my dear. I saved every word. Because I knew how this story would end. And I wasn't going to let them rewrite it. Tandy stopped picking my calls for 3 days. When she finally answered, her voice was hollow. Maybe they're right, she said quietly. Maybe I am selfish. It's a big house, Zara. They're family. Family doesn't make you a guest in your own home. I'm not afraid, she whispered. It's just easier to let them have their way. Mama likes cooking. She enjoys running the house. What about what you enjoy? Silence. Then, barely audible. I don't remember what that is anymore. That sentence broke me. I wanted to storm the house, drag her out, and remind her of who she was before they buried her spirit under obedience. But instead I said softly, you're not crazy, Tandy. You're trapped. And I'm not leaving you there. She didn't reply. 3 nights later I saw the photo on Instagram. Mama Zadwa had tagged Tandy in a family picture. Smiling faces, glasses raised, captioned, grateful for our beautiful beach home. God is good. But Tandy wasn't in the photo. They'd cropped her out. I drove there that same night. The house blazed with lights. Music thumped. Cars filled the driveway. I could hear laughter spilling from the windows. When Tandy opened the door, she looked exhausted. Zara, please. Not tonight. Mama's hosting her prayer group. Prayer? I stepped inside, pushing past her. With 40 people drinking wine in your living room. Mama Zadwa turned from the kitchen, wearing her Sunday hat and a fake smile. Zara, you came to join the fellowship. This is not fellowship, I said coldly. This is trespassing. Excuse me. You heard me. Everyone out. Now. Her face hardened. This is my son's home. I met her gaze. Actually, according to the deed, this is Tandy's home, and I am the legal grantor. You have 10 minutes to vacate before I call the police. You wouldn't dare. I was already on the phone. If you're loving this story and want more modern African tales of karma, betrayal, and power, hit that subscribe button, drop a comment, and tell us where you're watching from. Your support keeps these stories alive. Mama Zadwa's smirk didn't falter, even as I held my phone to my ear. You won't call the police, she said coolly. It's family business. I didn't blink. Watch me. When the dispatcher answered, I kept my voice calm. Yes, this is attorney Zara Mbeel. I'm at 16 Shoreline Drive, Umhlanga. I need immediate assistance. Trespassers refusing to vacate private property. I have ownership documents and proof of residence for the legal occupant. Mama Zadwa's face changed. The smile evaporated. You wouldn't disgrace us like this in front of everyone, she hissed. Oh, I would, I replied evenly. And I'll do worse if you keep pretending you own this place. Tandy stood frozen by the staircase, trembling. Nathi, she whispered, say something. He didn't. He just stared at me, jaw clenched. Then he muttered, you're blowing things out of proportion, Zara. You could have just called me. I did. You ignored me. You let your family humiliate your wife in her own home. Don't talk to my son that way, Mama Zadwa snapped, stepping closer. I turned to her slowly. You've been living here rent-free, eating her food, destroying her furniture, and locking her out. Tell me again who's disrespecting who. The room had gone silent except for the clinking of glasses and the hum of gospel music from someone's Bluetooth speaker. Then from behind me someone muttered, she's not even married. No wonder she doesn't understand family. I looked toward the voice. Tabo, Nathi's brother. His beer belly jiggled as he laughed. I walked up to him until our faces were inches apart. You're right, I said softly. I'm not married, which means I've had the freedom to build something for myself. Something your brother is about to lose. He blinked. What? Before I could answer, the doorbell rang. Blue lights flashed outside. 2 officers stepped in. A tall woman with a calm face and a younger man with a notebook. Evening, she said politely. We got a call about a property dispute. Yes, I said. I'm the legal grantor and power of attorney for my sister, the owner. These individuals are unauthorized occupants. Lies. Mama Zadwa barked. This is my son's marital home. The officer raised a brow. Your name on the title deed, ma'am? Mama Zadwa hesitated, then looked at Nathi. It's in my son's wife's name, she said finally. But it's their home. The officer turned to me. Can you show proof of ownership? I handed over the folder I'd kept ready for months. Inside were the signed transfer documents, Tandy's title deed, and my legal clause, the one that said the property reverted to me if the primary occupant was forced out or threatened. The officer skimmed it, then glanced at Tandy. Ma'am, do you confirm this is your residence? Tandy nodded weakly. Yes, it's mine. Have these individuals been living here without your consent? Tandy hesitated. Her eyes darted to Nathi. His glare was sharp, warning. I could almost see the fear choking her throat. Yes, I said firmly for her. Without her consent. The officer sighed and turned to the crowd of relatives. Everyone except the registered owner and her spouse needs to leave immediately. If there's a domestic dispute, we can call social services. But property rights are clear here. Mama Zadwa gasped. You can't throw us out like dogs. The officer's tone hardened. You have 5 minutes, ma'am. The house erupted. People yelling, arguing, gathering their bags, muttering about disrespect. Tandy stood frozen by the banister, watching her life crumble. But it wasn't sadness I saw in her eyes. It was relief. Quiet, exhausted relief. When the last relative stormed out, slamming the door behind them, the silence that followed was deafening. Then Tandy whispered, "They'll never forgive me." I turned to her. Then they were never your family. For a week, the house felt peaceful again. Too peaceful. The ocean breeze returned, the walls breathed light again. But peace is never free. I kept visiting, helping her set things right. We repainted the living room, threw away the lace curtains, and brought back her bright cushions. Every stroke of the brush felt like erasing trauma. Tandy started laughing again. Small, hesitant laughs, the kind that feel foreign after too much sorrow. But I still saw it, the shadow in her eyes whenever Nathy's phone buzzed. He barely spoke to us. He left early, came home late, ate alone. And every night he'd take long calls outside, pacing the balcony. When I asked Tandy who it was, she shrugged. He says it's work. But I could smell deceit from a mile away. One night I followed him quietly outside. The ocean wind carried his voice. I told you, Ma, not now. No, she doesn't suspect anything. The documents are in the drawer. Yes, the one under the certificates. My stomach turned cold. The next morning I checked that drawer. It was filled with forms, all bearing Tandy's name, forged signatures and bank seals. They weren't stealing her furniture. They were trying to steal her house. I called my friend Sifo, a notary officer. He examined the documents and whistled. They're sloppy but dangerous. Look here, they used scanned copies of your sister's ID. Someone's prepping to transfer ownership. To who? He tapped a paper. To Nathy's cousin Tabo. I sat back stunned. They were planning this the whole time. Probably. These fake signatures. They were never meant to convince a lawyer like you. They were meant to confuse a desperate clerk at the deeds office. I felt a chill crawl up my neck. It wasn't just betrayal, it was strategy. Cold, patient, and deliberate. I didn't tell Tandy immediately. I needed proof, and revenge had to be done properly. So I waited. Came sooner than I expected. One evening I got a frantic call. Zara. Tandy's voice cracked through the line. They're back. What do you mean back? Nathy just brought them all. Mama, Tabo, everyone. He says it's his house too and he's taking control. They're throwing my clothes into boxes. I was already in my car before she finished. By the time I reached the house, the scene was pure madness. Mama Zadwa stood in the living room again, arms crossed, issuing orders like a general. Pack those. The new furniture arrives tomorrow, she told Tabo. And take that old photograph down. I don't want her dead grandmother's eyes staring at me. Tandy, I shouted from the doorway. Step away from them. Mama Zadwa turned, annoyed. You again. Yes, me again. The woman you should have never underestimated. I walked straight to the kitchen counter and slammed down a folder. These are the documents your son forged. Bank forms, fake deeds, and signatures. You were trying to transfer the property, weren't you? Silence. Then Nathy laughed bitterly. You can't prove anything. Actually, I can, I said, opening the folder. I recorded your phone call last week. The one where you told your mother that the documents were hidden in the drawer under the certificates. Nathy froze. Tandy gasped. You said you were talking to your boss. I looked straight at him. You almost ruined your wife for greed. Mama Zadwa's face drained of color. You're lying. I'm not, I said. And tomorrow, these recordings and documents go to the anti-fraud division. Do you know what happens when you forge property transfer papers in South Africa, Mama Zadwa? Minimum 5 years. Sometimes 10. The silence in the room was deafening. Then I turned to Tandy. It's your choice, sis. You can forgive them, or you can fight. Her lips trembled. For a second I thought she'd crumble again. But then she squared her shoulders. I'm done forgiving, she said quietly. They can all go to hell. The next morning I filed the report. By evening the police were at their door. Mama Zadwa screamed about family betrayal, about disrespect, about curses. Nathy tried to deny everything, until the officer pulled out the audio file and played his own voice back to him. Yes, the documents are in the drawer. She doesn't suspect anything. His face fell apart. They were taken in for questioning. Mbutu. The beach house was sealed off for forensic review. I stayed by Tandy's side, holding her hand as she watched the officers carry out evidence boxes. Do you feel guilty? I asked softly. She shook her head. No, just free. But freedom doesn't erase scars, it just lets them breathe. For weeks afterward, she'd wake up in the middle of the night, expecting to hear footsteps or laughter downstairs. It took time for her to realize the house was hers again. A month later, I received a letter from the estate registry. It was addressed to me, the legal grantor. Inside was an unexpected document, a second clause, handwritten by Grandma Nandi before she died. To my granddaughters, this house will always belong to the one who protects the other. I stared at it, stunned. It wasn't just property. It was prophecy. Grandma had known, even back then, that the house would test our bond. I showed it to Tandy. She cried for an hour straight, clutching that letter like a lifeline. "This house almost destroyed us," she whispered. "But Grandma saved us twice, once with her will and once with her words." Justice came quietly. Nathi lost his job after the fraud investigation reached his company. Tabo's small business collapsed when investors pulled out. And Mama Zadwa's home in Soweto was repossessed after she failed to pay her debts, the same debts she'd been hiding behind her son's salary. They called, begged, even sent relatives to plead for mercy. Tandy never answered. Instead, she focused on healing, therapy, ocean walks, sunrise prayers. She opened a literacy center for underprivileged kids in Durban. She said helping others rebuild their lives was how she rebuilt hers. I visited often. We'd sit on the balcony at sunset, sipping rooibos tea. The waves crashed below us like applause. "Do you ever regret giving me this house?" she asked one evening. Smiled. "Never. I only regret not teaching you sooner that kindness should have boundaries." She nodded slowly. "Boundaries and clauses." We laughed, really laughed this time. And for once, it felt like the house finally belonged to peace. If you're still here, you're part of the family. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, drop a comment with your thoughts, and tell us, do you believe karma always finds its way back? Because in part 3, karma doesn't just return. It settles its final score. It had been 6 quiet months since the storm. Tandy's laughter filled the house again, the scent of freshly baked bread replacing the bitterness that once lived in the walls. Sometimes I'd catch her humming old childhood songs while hanging laundry on the balcony. Her face turned toward the ocean breeze. For the first time since inheriting Grandma's house, my sister looked truly free. But peace is a fragile guest. Never stays too long. One morning I came by with court updates. Small administrative things to finalize the property's protection clause. When I pulled into the driveway, I noticed the front gate slightly ajar. Tandy never left it open. I parked slowly, my heart tightening with a familiar unease. Inside, the house was silent. Too silent. Then I saw her, standing in the living room, eyes wide, hands trembling. And across from her, sitting calmly on the sofa like she had never left, was Mama Zadwa. She looked older, thinner, her once immaculate hair now streaked with gray. But the arrogance in her eyes hadn't faded. "Tandy," she said softly, as if addressing a child. "You didn't even offer me tea." Tandy's lips quivered. "What are you doing here?" "I came to apologize," Mama said, voice sugar smooth. "To make peace. Family shouldn't fight forever." I stepped between them. "How did you get past the gate?" She smiled faintly. "A kind neighbor recognized me. I said I needed to visit my daughter-in-law. You see, not everyone holds grudges." I crossed my arms. "State your business. You have 2 minutes." She looked at me with that familiar disdain. "Always so defensive, Zara. I didn't come for war. I came for forgiveness." I almost laughed. Forgiveness? After trying to steal her house and destroy her marriage? Her eyes flickered just briefly before she sighed. "You don't understand. I was desperate. Everything we owned was gone. The bank took my home, the police took my son's freedom, and Tabo. He drinks himself to sleep every night. I just wanted what was fair." "What's fair," I said coldly, "is what's earned." She ignored me, turning back to Tandy. "I raised Nathi alone. I built him into the man you married. Maybe I was harsh, but I protected him with everything I had. You know that kind of love, don't you? The kind that consumes you." Tandy's voice was barely above a whisper. "You don't love Mama. You control." That struck something deep. I saw the flicker of rage beneath Mama Zadwa's trembling jaw. "You've become proud," she said. "Ungrateful. This house changed you." "This house saved me," Tandy said. "From all of you." Mama's smile cracked. "You think you've won. You think karma is done with me." I stepped closer. "It already found you, Mama." She tilted her head slowly, eyes narrowing. "Not yet, lawyer. Not yet." Then, without another word, she stood up, straightened her old floral robe, and walked out. The sound of the gate closing echoed through the house like the end of a curse. For weeks after, strange things began happening. First it was small. The porch lights flickering at night. A faint smell of burnt sage drifting through the halls. Then, Tandy started hearing knocking sounds. Soft rhythmic knocks on her bedroom door around 3 a.m. Every night. When she opened it, no one was there. "It's just nerves," I said, trying to reassure her. "Your mind's still healing." But something in her face told me she didn't believe that. And deep down, neither did I. One night she called me in tears. "Zara, I saw her." "Who?" "Mama Zadwa." She was standing outside by the garden, just staring. I went to the window and she smiled at me. I drove there immediately, but when I arrived there was no one. Just muddy footprints leading away from the garden toward the beach. 2 days later I got the call. It was from a mutual acquaintance, a church friend of Nathy's. Zara, thought you should know. Mama Zadwa passed away last night. Froze. What? She collapsed at a prayer meeting. They said it was a stroke. She'd been under stress, living with relatives. No one even claimed the body yet. I sank onto the nearest chair. For a long moment I couldn't speak. Despite everything, she was still human. Still someone's mother, someone's grandmother. When I told Tandy, she just stared at me blankly. She was outside the night before, she whispered. I swear I saw her. We attended out of respect, not duty. There were barely 10 people there. A pastor, 2 cousins, Tabo reeking of alcohol, and Nathy, who looked gaunt and broken. When he saw Tandy, his eyes filled with something, regret maybe or shame. He walked toward her slowly. Tandy. I didn't know she'd. She stopped him with a single glance. You made your choices. He nodded, tears slipping down his cheeks. I lost everything, he said. You were right about them. About me. She said nothing. Sometimes silence is the cruelest forgiveness. As they lowered Mama Zadwa's coffin into the ground, a cold wind swept across the cemetery, stirring the dry grass. For a brief second I thought I heard a whisper, faint, almost carried by the wind. To the one who protects the other. I turned, but no one else seemed to notice. A month after the funeral, a letter arrived. From a law firm in Pietermaritzburg. It was addressed jointly to me and Tandy. Inside was a sealed envelope marked, Estate of Nondim Beale. My grandmother's name. But she'd been dead for years. I frowned, confused, as Tandy unfolded the accompanying note. Dear Ms. Beale, your late grandmother made a secondary provision under a trust agreement that only activates when both sisters are confirmed as lawful residents of the coastal property, and all third-party claims are legally dismissed. You are now entitled to the release of the Nondi Trust. Tandy's eyes widened. The Nondi Trust. Grandma never mentioned. I opened the next page. Inside was a statement balance. $800,000. The exact value of the house. Grandma didn't just leave a home, I whispered. She left a test. We drove to the trust office the next day. The clerk smiled warmly. Congratulations. You can withdraw or reinvest the funds under either sister's name. Or, as your grandmother wrote here, she pointed to the final line, to whichever sister protects the other from losing her home. We looked at each other in stunned silence. Then Tandy said quietly, Zara, you should take it. You saved everything. I shook my head. We both survived it. Grandma didn't say who she meant. Maybe she meant both. She smiled through tears. You're still the lawyer, always fair. I looked out the window at the distant coastline. Fairness kept us alive. But forgiveness will keep us free. We signed the papers together, splitting the inheritance 50-50. Half went to Tandy's Literacy Foundation. The other half, I invested in a housing fund for women leaving abusive families. We called it the Nondi Project. Because Grandma hadn't just left us wealth. She left us wisdom. A few months later, as the foundation gained traction, we received an anonymous donation. $100,000. The note attached simply said, for the women you're helping, from a man who finally understands what protection means. There was no signature, but we knew. Lethy. He had disappeared after the funeral. Rumor said he moved inland, working at a small carpentry shop, living quietly. For a moment Tandy just stared at the note, and then she smiled. Karma didn't destroy him, she said softly. It humbled him. That evening we stood together on the balcony. The sun melted into the horizon, turning the sea gold. The house glowed, alive, warm, forgiven. Do you think Grandma knew all this would happen? Tandy asked. I nodded slowly. She always believed every home holds 2 things, love and lessons. We just had to survive long enough to learn ours. We stood there in silence, the wind tangling through our hair. Then, out of nowhere, Tandy whispered, Do you smell that? I sniffed the air. Faint, soft, comforting, roasted maize and sage. Grandma's scent. We both smiled. Maybe karma doesn't end with punishment. Maybe sometimes it ends with peace. 6 months later, our foundation was featured on a local talk show. Women Who Rebuild. Tandy spoke beautifully about survival, betrayal, and forgiveness. When the host asked what inspired her, she said, My sister gave me a house. Life tried to take it. But that house became my teacher. It showed me who I was and who I could be. And I learned something powerful. Sometimes the people who break you are the same ones who teach you how to heal. The audience applauded. I felt tears prick my eyes. As we walked off set, Tandy looked at me. "You know, I think Grandma's happy now." Smiled. "She is. You can feel it in the waves." Outside, the sea roared in the distance. Endless, alive, forgiving. And for the first time in years, I realized the story wasn't just about betrayal. It was about becoming. If you've stayed till the end, thank you, family. Stories like this remind us that karma isn't cruel. It's patient. If you believe in the power of truth, justice, and rebirth, subscribe, like, and share this story so more hearts can heal through storytelling. Because in this house, no betrayal goes unanswered, and no love goes unseen.